In baseball, just like any sport, there are certain managers that are the most well-known. You then have the managers who aren't as well-known, along with the managers who are the most hated or simply just not that good at their job. Alex Cora, for example, is one of, if not the best managers in the game today. Now, yeah, I'm a Red Sox fan. Sure, I may have a little bias, but you can't deny the impact that Cora has on the Red Sox, even if you hate the team. Not only does he make really smart and good moves for the team before and during games, but he's also a master at communicating with his guys, being motivational and getting the best out of the players on the team. As Garrett Whitlock once said on this very program, there isn't a single guy on the Red Sox who wouldn't run through a brick wall for Alex Cora.
Oh, I mean, he's the kind of guy where if he told you, hey man, I need you to run through that wall, you're like, cool, gotcha. You wouldn't think twice about it.
With all that being said, there are plenty of managers in baseball, whether in today's game or throughout the history of the game, that weren't known to be very good at their job, and surely wouldn't have their players willing to run through brick walls for them. In this video, we're going to talk about a manager who had players wanting to get traded away, openly being disrespectful to him, speaking out on him. A manager who disrespected his own coaching staff, told a radio host he was going to punch him in the mouth, and yeah, should I say more? Take a second to like this video, and if you're new to the channel and end up enjoying this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button for future baseball content. Let's stick within the Red Sox organization for this video since I just talked about Alex Cora, Bobby Valentine. If you're a Red Sox fan listening to this, you're probably already getting PTSD from that 2012 season. The Red Sox had just went from one of the best teams in the league during 2011, only to blow it and miss the postseason entirely. There was the chicken and beer scandal that had people start to doubt Terry Francona's control of the clubhouse, which then led to his leave from the team. Red Sox legends Jason Varitek and Tim Wakefield retired. Jonathan Papelbon had thrown his final pitch in a Red Sox uniform. Legendary front office genius Theo Epstein was leaving for the Cubs, and it was just an end of an era in Boston. So what did the Red Sox do? Hire Bobby Valentine to be their new manager, and it turned out to be an absolute nightmare. The Red Sox had another legend in Kevin Youkilis, who didn't have much of a Red Sox career left or a major league career left in general after 2011, but he did stick with the team for 2012 until he was traded away mid-season to the Chicago White Sox. Youkilis apparently couldn't have been any happier to get the hell out of Boston because of his relationship with Valentine. Early during the 2012 season, around mid-April, Bobby Valentine reportedly trash-talked Youkilis to a TV station, saying that Youkilis didn't show much enthusiasm for the game of baseball and did not look as physically or emotionally into baseball as he did in the past. Valentine later apologized for those comments, but it was too late, as Youkilis ended up getting out of there. What Valentine said was clearly wrong, and probably not true, and even if it was true, you don't say those things publicly to other people. A good manager would have sat Uke down and just between the two of them have a very personal conversation about the situation at hand. If you think that this was the worst and most ridiculous of it all, strap in. Young Red Sox player Jose Iglesias was in the middle of an at-bat late in the game. After working a 2-2 count with Pedro Ciriaco stealing second base, Iglesias was taken out of the game. Wait, what? Yeah, that's right. Bobby Valentine went to his bench to put in Daniel Nava for Jose Iglesias in the middle of an at-bat that had 2 strikes. Very strange move, and talk about not having or showing any sort of confidence in a young player. Nava ended up getting out, with the Red Sox not coming through to score the run, and Valentine going on to defend his decision to take him out of the game. As bad as Valentine was at being a good clubhouse leader, it wasn't like he was any better at making in-game decisions. There were so many times during the season in which Bobby V made horrible in-game managerial moves, with his worst ones probably being not knowing when to take his starters out of the games when they were getting pummeled out there. The pitcher's mound can be the loneliest place in the world when you're struggling, and Valentine didn't seem to know or care about that. You then have his disagreements with Dustin Pedroia. Pedroia is a class act, someone who will forever be a Red Sox legend and icon. Pedroia will defend Valentine to this day on certain things, as he really does respect him as a human being, but there's no denying that he and Bobby V had plenty of differences throughout the course of the 2012 season. After Valentine's comments on Youkilis in April, Dustin Pedroia strongly defended Youkilis, voicing his criticism of the comments that were made by his manager, saying, quote, "I know Uke plays as hard as anyone I've ever seen in my life, and I have his back and his teammates have his back. We know how hard he plays. I don't really understand what Bobby's trying to do, but that's not the way we go about our stuff here. I'm sure he'll figure that out soon." End quote. Like I said, there were plenty of times that I'm sure Pedroia and Valentine were good with each other, but if you ask Petey who his favorite manager was in his playing days, I highly doubt Valentine is anywhere near the top of that list compared to the 3 other managers he played for. Red Sox reliever Alfredo Aceves was straight up awful in 2012, like he was really bad. He pitched 84 innings to the tune of a 5.36 ERA, and you almost have to imagine he gave up some runs on purpose because of his disdain for Bobby Valentine that he had no issue being public about. Bobby V and Aceves had a terrible relationship, and as bad of a manager as Valentine was, he wasn't the sole reason the relationship was bad. It was pretty mutual. The relationship between the reliever and his manager was so bad that Aceves ended up getting suspended by the team for 3 games after arguing with Valentine, which resulted in him slamming a door. What Aceves was mad about was the fact that his teammate Andrew Bailey was brought in to close out a game instead of him. Most of this is Aceves' fault, because he should have realized how bad he was and unfit for any role in the major league bullpen, let alone the damn closer's role. But Valentine should have also had better communication with Aceves, letting him know that he was no longer the team's closer, instead of just not talking to him and not using him when he expected to be used. Alfredo Aceves, like I said, was pretty public about his hatred for Valentine. Not only did he show him up behind closed doors that he would eventually slam, but he also showed him up in front of his teammates and the fans. Aceves apparently denied a butt slap from Valentine, and also refused to look at him when being taken out of a game, handing the ball to Jared Saltalamacchia and walking around his teammates instead of past Valentine to get back to the dugout. Bobby Valentine not only didn't know what he was doing game-wise or communication-wise, but also disrespected his coaches, claiming that they were undermining him. He also said it on WEEI instead of behind closed doors. Yeah, not a good look. And speaking of WEEI, Bobby Valentine threatened to punch host Glenn Ordway in the mouth. Seriously. Why? Because Ordway criticized the manager on being late to a game in Oakland, which is fair. Here's the audio.
You do get the impression that maybe you've kind of checked out. Have you checked out of this?
What an embarrassing thing to say. You know, if I was there, I'd punch you right in the mouth. How's that sound? Sound like I checked out? What an embarrassing thing. Why would somebody even... I mean, that's something that a comic strip person would write.
Finally, we have what Red Sox and baseball legend David Ortiz had to say on Bobby Valentine. A few years back, Ortiz released a book, an autobiography called Poppy, My Story, which you should buy and read if you haven't already, even if you're not a Red Sox fan. It's really good. In that book, when talking about the 2012 Red Sox and Bobby Valentine in particular, he did not hold back on his statements, calling the ex-Red Sox manager disrespectful, arrogant, irrational, clueless, and quote-unquote aggravating as hell. Ortiz went on to talk about when he realized Valentine was going to be a mess. Can you take a guess? It was in spring training, saying it was all about him as he'd make Ortiz and the players do unusual things to prove how smart he was. Valentine seems like an overall decent guy, he really does, and has had success as a manager in other organizations, but from someone who made awful in-game decisions, had terrible communication skills with his own players, was hated by his own players, disrespected his coaching staff, said he wanted to punch a radio host in the face, among other things, it's pretty clear that Bobby Valentine's Red Sox tenure was one of the worst of all time for any manager or coach. He was simply hated by his own players, is still despised by the city of Boston to this day, and he sure knows it.
I know. I'm fired.
Let me know what you think about Bobby V, and thank you for watching.